What's going on, guys? Welcome to a new video on the channel. This time we're going tattoo related. I'm going to be talking about conventions and why tattoo conventions are a waste of time in 2025. And I'm about to piss some people off, but someone's got to say it. Tattoo conventions, yeah, they're not the flex everyone pretends they are anymore. And listen, I'm talking as someone who's been in the industry for years, built my own lane, built my own studio, travelled, tattooed celebrities, um, tattooed the average person, grown online, taught other artists how to level up, etc. So I'm not chatting from the sidelines here. I'm talking from experience. But today I'm going to break down why tattoo conventions are a complete waste of time if you're serious about leveling up, and why most artists still go into them are stuck in an old mindset. Um, so I'm going to kind of section this up. I'm going to probably do this over like a 10-minute video. Um, but so section one, I'm gonna kind of label this as the attention's dead now. Um, let's start simple. The attention isn't there anymore. You know, when tattoo conventions came about, there used to be like 40 to 60 artists in a hall. Now you've got like 400, 500. There's banners everywhere, there's chaos, there's noise. Everyone's work just blends into one, massive wallpaper of look at me. Um, Nobody stands out, nobody remembers you, nobody's checking out portfolios, and the clients who do walk around, they're not the type you want to build your brand on anyway. It's bargain hunters, drunk walk-ins, people looking for a story, not a tattoo. If you're building a premium studio, a high-end brand, a serious career, why are you spending a weekend fighting for attention in a cattle market? You know, um, when I go to conventions, I used to get recognized there. I don't work conventions anymore. I haven't worked a convention for about 3 years. Sometimes I'll go just to have a laugh, make some content. If there's an artist that I want to collab with or network with, I'll go and meet them and introduce myself, etc., etc. The last convention I went to in person was Birmingham this year, which was a good laugh. I'm not saying they're not a good laugh, and they're not they're not cool to go to for the average kind of person that's into tattoos, because it is a good time. Um, Especially when you have alcohol. But I mean, it's pretty boring, mate. I haven't. With this being said, I haven't been to any conventions in America, and I've heard they put on a pretty good show. Here in the UK, it's pretty dead. You get the same fucking acts going around the same conventions. You get the same girls there flaunting their titties and ass off, you know. Um, but it's not great. It's pretty boring. It's pretty shit. Um, it's not cool to go to a convention or work at a convention anymore. Um, and you have to pay for your fucking booth. Like, why the fuck would you want to pay to go and work at a convention and line someone else's pocket? This is the biggest thing that I don't understand in this industry. Is I used to do it because I was like, oh, like I get to be a part of something, blah blah. When I actually started focusing and pinpointing what I needed to do in my career to further my career, um, it's I was like, right, I'm going to spend £400 on a booth, on a single booth. You're spending like £600 to £800 on a double booth, um, which is very expensive. And sometimes you don't get clients that will travel, so then you're going to have to mark down your price just to, for someone to save to be there, so they can travel and spend the extra money they would traveling to be there. Otherwise, you're just sat at a booth doing fuck all. Like, you know what I mean? It's pretty shit. Um, So, everyone says, yeah, it's great networking and this, that, and the other. No, it's not. Stop lying to yourself. The people you want to network with, the big names, the private studio owners, the celebrities, the collectors with money, they're not at conventions, bro. They're not at conventions. They're in private studios, they're doing guest spots in exclusive places, they're online, they're building brands, working with videographers, training in silence, and at private events, they're not sat in a sweaty hall handing out business cards, mate. Um, Networking at conventions is like trying to have a deep conversation in a nightclub. Like, you can do it, but you won't get anything meaningful out of it. Um, like I said earlier, the cost versus return is terrible, and that's the main thing for me. Um, and nobody wants to admit this part because it hurts their feelings. The ROI on conventions is terrible. You pay for the booth, like I said, you pay for travel, you pay for the hotel, you're paying for food, drinks. If you've forgotten something in your setup, you have to pay for that. You have to find a vendor and pay for that, which is marked up in price. Not all the time, but most of the time it is. It's lost time in your studio. You're easily spending like £1,000 to £2,000 on a weekend before you even tattoo anybody. So you best hope they show up just to claw some of that money back. So what do you really get out of that? Just to say that you're working at a convention online. Whoop de fucking doodah. I'd rather spend that money on content creation, online ads, better equipment, a new course if I wanted to learn, a studio upgrade, high-end photographer to come in and take some pictures, a videographer, a seminar. That's what actually grows your business. Conventions don't build careers anymore. They just drain your bank and your time, and that's the key to this video, to be honest. And let me say this as well. I mean, this is probably going to be a bit of a negative video, but fuck it, I don't care. People need to understand. The competitions are a joke now as well. It's kind of like a politics in trophy form. Judges are often biased. I've worked and personally judged at a convention, and I won't say the names on the rest of the panel, but it was I looking back now. At the time, I mean, we're talking about 9 years ago now, but when I judged, or maybe 8 years ago, but when I judged at this convention, though the people that were sat next to me were quite big names. They weren't that good at tattooing, but they were quite big names because they'd been in the industry for a long period of time. But where I got taught by the industry greats and stuff like this, the David Vegas, the Thomas Carlialiers, the Eric Massinazins, I've worked in really, really high-end studios, getting the best artists from around the world, flying in to guest at Iron and Ink, for instance, in Denmark. Shout out Havaro, I hope you're well, bro. And you kind of look, when you're in these kind of places, when I was in these kind of places, I was thinking, right, I'm going to ask these people what they're looking out for, blah, blah, blah. So when I was judging this convention, I kind of had a very deep understanding on tattooing and technique. The other judges didn't have a fucking clue what they were talking about, to be honest. And I was like, this is crazy. And I didn't understand why, like, the best work, in my opinion, just never wins, like, overall. So and it's because you've got judges up there that have their own flavor of what they like. You really have to try and be unbiased when you're a judge at convention. So yeah, I've found judges are often biased. They're friends of friends. They're picking tattoos they personally vibe with, etc. They're not even technically strong artists, and the pieces that win, like I said, are usually the biggest, boldest, craziest thing, not the best executed work. Winning a tattoo convention used to mean something. Now it's just who knows who, and who bought the biggest color explosion on their mate's leg, basically. Um, but you know, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't base my self worth on how three random judges feel on a Sunday afternoon. You know what I mean? Um, you don't learn anything new. So, you know, if you're going to conventions to learn, you're learning wrong as well. Um, there's nothing at a tattoo convention you can't learn 10 times better, 10 times cheaper, 10 times more clearly from an online course or a private seminar with someone who actually knows what they're doing, and they've been in the game for years, and they're exceptional in their field. You know, so watching someone tattoo from 20 feet away, while you know, while like you're just sort of watching on the sidelines. You know that it's tourism. You know, it's tourism. And to be honest, like I get it. I get why these people run the conventions, because it's a massive tax write-off for a start, um, and it's just a money grab. And I know it gives, I know it brings something to the town. You know, if there's like the convention that I judged in about 8 years ago was the Exeter convention, and it was just so bad, dude. It was so shit. It was so cool, and I actually remember it was really hot in there as well, and I remember sitting there like, this is fucking shit. What am I doing here? I've travelled 5 hours to come and tattoo it in a fucking roasting hall with a bunch of people I don't even know, that are all shit, that are just like here because they're just controlled in a way. Like, it's like, mate, if I was one of them people still, I'd be so fucked. I'd be so fucked. Like, my career would just never ever ever have kicked off at all. And I know work speaks for itself and stuff like this. And by all means, I don't think I'm the best artist in the world, but I know I'm a very good one, and I know I've got a very deep understanding of tattooing, and I know there's better people out there than me. But it's you need, if you're serious about leveling up, you need to go into the deep dives, the structure, the breakdowns, the actual feedback, proper guidance in a controlled room. Conventions give you none of that shit. Um, and this is the part nobody wants to hear. The industry's evolved. Tattoo conventions were built for the old version of our industry, and now the world runs on online presence, digital branding, content, exclusivity, personal experience, business strategy, long-term client relationships, blah blah blah. Going to a convention in 2025 to boost your career is like going to a blockbuster to boost your TikTok, bruv. The landscape's changed, the game's changed, but artists are still playing like 2007 rules, bruv. You know what I mean? And your time is too valuable for this, especially as an artist nowadays. With a market super saturated. Um, you know, let's look at the difference between time. Let's look at time. If you want to level up, and you don't agree with this following statement, right, then you by all means carry on, basically. But let's look at time. If you're an artist who genuinely wants to level up, your time is the most valuable thing you own, right? A convention takes a full weekend. It takes your energy, your focus, your travel, your health, your schedule, your content opportunities, and gives you basically nothing back, right? Apart from a couple of high fives and, hey mate, nice to see you again, sweet, yeah, let's grab a drink later, yeah, cool, let's watch some shitty fucking rock band play, cool, sweet. Meanwhile, you could be spending those same 3 days creating 10 videos, 20 photos, a full healed set portfolio piece, a whole new module for your course if you're into selling courses, a brand collab, a client experience, an exclusive event at your studio. You know, that's real progress. That's real growth, in my opinion. And I'm gonna say, I'm gonna give people that are in this game a bit of advice. If you want to win in this industry in 2025, and I know it's super hard, it's harder than ever because it's super saturated. Like I said, you need to stop chasing conventions and start building assets. Build a brand, a studio people fly to. People fly to my studio all the time. Build an experience, a reputation built on quality. You know, an online presence that scales, that's scalable. Education that positions you as a leader, if you're good enough, of course. A lot of people are selling courses and they're fucking trash, or don't know what they're talking about, or they've learned from someone with very bad habits. Content that reaches millions, a client base that trusts you. You know, conventions don't give you any of that. They give you just noise, they give you distraction, they give you a bit of nostalgia, I get it, but it's dead now. I would rather sit in my studio, create something meaningful, teach artists. I would tattoo high level clients. I'd build my courses. I'd shoot some videos. You know, I would get a photographer in, and let my work speak for itself. I'd then, you know, design it. It's like you want your studio or your tattoo space to be a constant content factory. You know, conventions don't do that really. So yeah, that's my honest take on tattoo conventions in 2025. Not everyone has to agree with me, but if you are serious about growth, deep down you know I'm right. And if you want more videos like this, more honesty, more real talk about leveling up in the industry, hit follow, drop a comment, and let's elevate the tattoo world the right way. And if you're really into wanting to learn how to tattoo, hit up www.theholygrailtattooeducation.com. I'll link it in the bio, and you can have a look for yourself, and see my work. I'll also pin my tattoo page in the bio as well. There's too many sheeps in this industry, but bro, and I'm not gonna be one of them. So anyway, on that note, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.